Hey, what's up, buddy? At least you had somebody to keep you company. The other guys are running a little late tonight, so I figured I'd hop on here and chat with y'all. And y'all, I mean every personality of yours that was communicating previously. I also had to get a new hard drive before I went to that air show in Wyoming, so I'm still catching up on all the software that I need to have reinstalled and all that, which is a complete pain. What was the topic you suggested last time? Something about a project not going how you had planned or something like that? We don't have a pre-existing topic, unfortunately. We used to be a lot better about communicating that, but it's sort of a double-edged kind of thing, where if we had time to plan it, then we seem like more regimented in like the delivery, and not as exciting, I guess, not as interesting to me. If we kind of get more off the cuff, then it seems we're not as stiff-lipped. I don't know how to describe it. It's my perception of it, at least. It would seem like if you had time to prepare, you would it would come out better, but the opposite seems to be true for us. Oh. I like that. I could relate. So it would cost $2,000, is that what you said, to do all those little cavities with epoxy? That seems weird. And you need glow in the dark specifically, right? Gotcha. Huh. And do only certain pigments work with certain glow powders, or is the glow independent of the pigment, or do you have to get different kinds of glow powder based on, like, is there a blue glow, is there a green glow? I don't know what, for the different shades, or how does that work? Gotcha. Well, Peter Brown has done a lot of stuff with epoxy, and he did a video like a month or so ago about using unorthodox types of pigments and powders to color and enhance epoxy. And he actually used like dollar store makeup, and he said it worked in most cases like indistinguishable from the official stuff that's supposed to be used. Yeah, he's kind of like the epoxy guy that I would go to if I had questions. And he's super nice. Okay, excuse me. Sean is on. What's up, Sean?
I see that you have not floated away. I guess it's good.
Yeah. It is good. Wow. Yeah, we definitely got off easy here in Raleigh compared to most other areas.
Oh, wow. That is quite a picture.
Yeah. We ended up getting like a foot of rain here, but there are areas down east, southeast of me that got over 2 feet of rain within like 2 days. There are pictures of the Interstate 40, which goes through California. On this side, you see like a bank of trees and where the highway normally is, and it's just like all water. It looks like a river. Like you can't see pavement at all in a couple of the pictures I saw, which is nuts. Let's see. Reconfiguring. Let's get some pictures of people.
Any ideas for a topic?
Donovan had a good one.
Oh, I didn't see that. Was that from Twitter?
It was in YouTube. It was in YouTube last week and also like just now. He said, "What about doing projects that stretch you but could go bad, as opposed to projects that are easy?"
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've done that before. Maybe some iteration of that. I don't know, but it's hard to remember.
Yeah, we haven't cataloged our topics very well.
How do you decide to do projects that are hard and stretch your talents, and when to do projects that are easy and safe?
You know, I actually like that one.
Yeah. I'm glad I thought of it.
And I'll kind of steer it towards a little bit of what I want to talk to you guys about tonight anyways. Now that I've kind of broken my 3D printer cherry a little bit.
Sweet.
Not entirely. It's... You know, I'm printing models that other people have done. I haven't printed anything of my creation yet, which I'm working on. And I'm looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I really don't like MakerBot. And I found out some other things about it today that I wasn't happy with either. Oh well.
Let's see, Mark is on.
Yeah, Donovan, I've been watching your Instagram story and was actually trying to help you problem solve, like mentally problem solve the issue of needing all that resin. Wondering if you could have set it up in a way to give the illusion of it being filled somehow. I didn't really come up with a solution, otherwise I would have shared it with you though.
I thought about it a lot. I don't have an answer.
Because I wonder if it would have been better to not route out that entire cavity where that stuff needs to be filled and only do like a reference of it, and then you could probably reduce the amount that has to be filled.
Or what about glow-in-the-dark, like vinyl? Like glow-in-the-dark vinyl cutter, like, you know, pieces. Where it's like on the surface and not necessarily indented at all.
Mom wants to know what the shark is.
I don't know. Scarlett was playing with it. That's fine. That's fine.
Alright.
Yep.
The podcast.
Thanks, bud. Close the door, please. Sure.
There we go. What's up, guys?
Hey,
There
dude.
he is. What's up, Mike?
Yeah, joined in. I couldn't turn my camera on.
I will say that 3D printing something for the first time kind of feels like magic.
It does.
Yeah.
You're just in awe. You're like, what?
So I got like a little chain.
That's cool.
I'll probably save it for the show too. This dumb solid block. And I don't need that because it took like 15 minutes. And then I didn't want to wait 4 hours, so I did this on draft setting. Still tower.
Meh.
It's addicting.
So I can't tell what's supposed to be support and what's supposed to be the actual structure.
I think it was all support material. He just died before he could take it off.
I think this is a bad filament too. Is that the same background as last week? I can't remember.
No, I don't think so. I think we had like a road exit sign.
I like this one though, by the way. It's probably one of my favorites.
This one? Have we used this one before?
I don't know, but it's now
Cool.
currently one of my favorites.
Yeah. I just now noticed that Yoshi looks like he's high.
I think it's plausible.
It is. All that crap he eats, some of it's got to be bad for him.
Let me compare it to some of my high school students. I'll get back to you.
Meh.
Mm.
Feige is officially in charge of X-Men.
Yup.
So did the deal actually go through?
I think it's done.
I keep hearing it's done, and then, you know, like other little tidbits of, you know, oh, it's, you know, not completely inked yet, or
FTC approval or what?
maybe. Actually, I was thinking about this the other day with like all the superhero stuff, and I know it's kind of segmented in the comics, but does it really make sense to separate the X-Men into their own franchise in a way when they're individuals with ability just like every other superhero? So is it actually helpful to fragment them that way,
No.
mutant or not? I mean, so you have the mutant camp where something was modified in your DNA, and then you have the steroid camp where you know you're injected with something, or you know were subjected to some sort of radiation.
Right, or you're just like a brilliant inventor / rich person.
Yeah, then there's that camp.
Does the FTC get involved in imaginary characters? Yeah, when they're owned by giant conglomerates, yeah.
When it equates to billions of dollars and near monopolies, yes. It is unbelievable what Disney owns right now. Muppets, Marvel, ESPN.
Indiana Jones.
They don't own Indiana Jones, do they?
Lucas. Yep.
Oh, because a part of Lucasfilm?
Mm-hmm.
See, that was produced by Paramount, so I didn't think that was a...
Maybe pre-existing ones, maybe they don't. I don't know.
maybe. And then Star Wars. That's
Right.
insane.
Pixar.
Pixar. Do you remember when Pixar was going to go on their own, and they're looking for, you know, somebody to kind of be the distributor? everybody's wondering whether or not Pixar movies would change.
Those children won't stay in the bed.
What's up, Josh?
Hey everybody.
What's going on, Josh?
Wes has a picture of the president's penis as a backdrop.
Huh?
I get it.
No, I get that as the backdrop.
As a
What
character
about,
in the
Oh,
backdrop.
Toad. Okay.
What about Batman's penis? It supposedly got showed in a comic book recently.
I heard about that.
I missed that. Really?
Yeah, they're
I
making a new
guess.
Batman series that apparently chose Bruce Wayne's wiener.
Batman Damned, I think is what it was called.
Is it gay? Is it gay? If
Well,
I'm looking that up.
Hopefully it wasn't Batman. Damn. Okay, that I don't think that read right.
So
It's a good thing we're recording this or anything.
It's live streaming.
Google search Batman apostrophe S. Second reply: Batman's junk. Batman's penis is in a comic book for the first time ever.
Seth Meyers did a bit. He did like
Mm-hmm.
4 jokes on it.
Them,
Yeah, like back to back to back. He said, "It's a good thing your parents aren't alive to see this."
I think Mark just caught a glimpse of
That was my favorite one.
Batman Wang.
I take it,
Bruce Wang.
Mark. I take it you found the picture.
Oh my God! It's not even a question.
Bruce Wang, I presume.
I haven't seen the picture.
Hold on, I found one that has a convenient slider of edit, not edit.
If they're smart, they should have gave his Wanger a comic book of its own.
Na 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 Batwang.
It gets its own page.
See, they would make fun of Robin. And Robin would like hold the comic in the next issue, going, "What is that thing?"
I think the real question is, does it look angry?
It's full of malice.
Hold on, the link is coming as soon as Slack loads on my
That's what she said.
Mhm.
But
So that was what was in his utility belt this whole time.
Go.
Daddy, what are you doing? No, nothing. Just the usual. Talking about Batman penis.
Batwang.
Grown up stuff.
Kids are such weird creatures.
Yeah, we'll blame it on them.
Every day.
I just gave you guys the link in Slack. I'm watching your faces intently.
See if I can do this on my watch. Phone's upstairs.
I don't see anything.
Yeah.
No, put your mouse over the slider.
You sent it just a JPEG.
Oh, it puts it as a JPEG.
Oh,
Oh wait, here it is. Here it is.
I'll just go to the website.
it's the Vox, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay.
That's not that bad.
That could be easily mistaken as like a smudge on the page.
No.
It's not
You
as
know,
blatant as I thought.
Most
it
people
would be.
know that most of them go to the left. Why is this going to the right?
That is true.
This is just wholly inaccurate.
It's
Probably
that
after
is
all the
not-
beatings he has.
How many times did he get?
That's his right, your left. It's still going to the right.
I know, that's the problem.
Yeah, you should hang to the left because your left testicle is bigger than the other one. But I guess after him getting beat up so many times, his nuts are pretty much just nothing.
Or he has one that's kind of distended.
It was like on Porky's when that one guy, she was like, "His junk is crooked. He needs to see a doctor."
Could you imagine being in those creative meetings about, okay, well, how should we draw it? Straight down, to the right, to the left?
Is Batman circumcised? These are questions we never had to answer before.
I would figure his parents would be Catholic. I don't know.
That's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
Older money's usually some kind of heavy religion.
Oh boy.
Oh, there's a way I didn't think the day was going to be ending.
Yeah, the show's just starting though.
I was looking at Batman cack.
And I'm glad I was already recording.
Nice.
Yeah, that won't necessarily be the soundbite though. I don't want it to violate your
Angry
ethics
typing.
clause with I like to make stuff.
Angry typing.
Your ethics clause.
I've signed no such
Aw.
clause. Talking about the president's wiener, now Batman's wiener.
Yeah, all within like 2 days. Like,
Yeah.
it's just cornucopia of carnal delights.
It's wieners everywhere.
So we're gonna go with the recommendation from Donovan for the topic,
Which was what?
which was how do you decide to do projects that are hard and stretch you, and when do you do projects that are easy and safe?
More penis jokes.
Right?
Everything is gonna sound like that tonight.
Ooh, well.
I hope that I don't have any coworkers on the live chat right now. Oh well.
You're the department chair.
Yeah, I am.
Tell me my business.
What I do in my off time is none of your beeswax.
So, Brenda, you like to drink red wine, I like to talk about Batman wieners. I'll judge you. Oh, man.
You think at some point he had that discussion with Lucius Fox about like more like groin protection? Like, it's just not enough. You need to add some more armor. You can't punch there. Well, Batman.
That's
You
what the
really
cod
should
piece
be
keeps growing in every movie.
Right.
wearing underpants, bro.
Bruce. Yeah. Take what you do with the bat nipples and go a little bit south.
You gotta warn a guy when he's drinking.
No, I was watching for that.
Like, can you put just like a crease, like right over the top in the foam rubber and the casting, you know? Make it look like.
Yeah, look at it from the profile. Look at it from the profile.
That's where I keep my quarters, man. Gotta keep them somewhere.
I can post the link. Is that what you want me to do? Post the link?
Yeah, it's okay.
I mean, it's not our link.
It wouldn't let me do it in the chat.
Our young listeners may never be the same after that.
I'm not.
Hey kids, do you know Batman's a boy? I know, right?
The Dark Knight Rises.
No more assuming his gender.
I would like to see a Magic Tree Batman.
Gross.
See, now I don't I don't understand why you draw that in that scene.
For shock value.
Does it feel creepier that it's just kind of like almost silhouette with one highlight?
As the light gently casts on Bruce Wayne's Wang. Bruce Wang's Wayne. Wait.
Gotta draw the room low.
Bruce Wang's Wayne.
Yeah, so he has to change his name to Bruce Wayne. Sorry, Donovan. This happens every now and then. Usually before we start streaming,
Uh huh.
we're getting to some weird topic, and
Yep. This is the pre-show.
yeah, some mildly inappropriate content.
The article is pretty well written. It says, in that context, exposing Batman's Dick Grayson to the world is a brilliant marketing move.
Yeah, but what's right one streaking again?
I know. Like I said, I have a video link.
2 for 2. Oh man.
Whoa.
Unfortunate turn. What?
Is it some? That has to say something about our culture, where every Batman movie, he's bedded like a fine lady. But now it's like, oh my god, you show Batman's wiener. Like, it was just heavily implied all the rest of the times.
Isn't there like a different separation between what we perceive in the movies though, and what we kind of expect out of the comic books?
I don't know. Comic books can be far darker a lot of times.
Yeah, I know. It just
Except for that one piece of light. Is it that comic books don't have parental guidance ratings?
comic books actually do have
No,
ratings.
they do.
Really?
Yeah, they have
Comic
ratings.
The
Comic Authority.
Comics code.
They've
or
had them for a
whatever it
while.
is.
The only thing that I meant by that was I think that there's a certain expectation or perception that comics are still kind of a kid's thing. I know that's kind of far from reality, but I think it talk about like perception. Whereas movies, it's a little bit more blatant about the rating of a movie. Even though that gets ignored too. I don't know.
So are they getting shock value, or are they like opening up the door for future comic books? Like, is this a trend? Did they break some seal?
I think another.
Is this just the tip?
You were just waiting. You were just waiting for that one.
Well played. Well played.
I'm more curious about something else though, because I don't know what the comic's about. I haven't read it, and from a artistic point of view, if there was a reason for it, whatever that could have been, I guess, then you might be able to support it. Otherwise, if it's nothing more than gratuitous, then it, I think, doesn't really have a whole lot of value. I'm sure that somebody could kind of make up a reason.
It's not our
showing
whole culture at the moment.
which part, just to
Just the gratuitous part.
yeah, it is. But it'd be nice if it had a narrative reason, like maybe showing vulnerability or some sort of metaphor for something.
Oh, it looked like in the picture, the Batmobile was on fire, and the
Yeah.
bat suit was just like strewn
Destroyed.
about behind him.
So I bet they would argue of that vulnerability and being stripped of everything else, and that's just who he is, from head to toe. And they thought that would be a way of really kind of, I guess, punctuating that.
Maybe he
Whether or
had
not
like
we agree with
acid
that.
on him. I don't know.
What was that, Wes?
Maybe he had like acid spilled on him, like everywhere. On his armor. I don't know.
By Catwoman and Poison Ivy and
Or Joker.
Robin.
So that's just a metaphor for how men are treated like a piece of meat.
Right.
We're always being taken advantage of.
Or maybe his true identity was going to be revealed, And he's like, you know what? If everybody's staring at my wiener, no one's gonna be looking at my face. And I was like, who was that? They're like, I don't know.
Shock value.
I didn't see him.
It was penis.
It's
So
kind. It's
dingly piece of
Nobody looked at his face, really. No.
it's like when you look at your watch and then forget immediately.
It was just kind of dark. Like
I looked at his face and then I looked at his wang.
it was
Is
the
that what
ultimate diversion.
Is that what Banksy does so nobody knows who he is?
He was hiding in plain sight.
Yep.
Behind his wiener shadow.
And the title for this episode is Wiener Shadow.
I think Josh has gone through like 8 titles already.
Wait, my inhibitions are lowered.
It was a couple of weeks ago when I had
That's what she
titled
said.
the episode "No Good Title." The only other title I could think of that I really wanted to do that I didn't feel right putting was "Excel for Prostitutes." I could not think of any other title, but I didn't feel right putting that as the official title.
I want to start a nonprofit that teaches prostitutes spreadsheets and project management software. I feel like it could really help their business. It's like a needle exchange program. Like you don't want to completely go away with it because you don't think it'll go away. But if they were just smart about what they were doing, they could show business plans and growth charts and trend data. Then
Start getting investors,
Yeah.
some VC money.
Get like a VIP punch card kind of thing. Let's do it.
All right. Hello, Internet, and welcome to episode 114 of the Making Geeks podcast. We are the podcast for makers, dads, and geeks. We have a group. I'm just going to cut it together. We have a great show here for you tonight, and we have all of our co-hosts here with us today, starting with Mr. Josh Price, Mr. Mark O'Keefe, and Mr. Wes Swain.
Hello.
Hello. What's up, guys?
How you doing?
I didn't float away.
That is very
That's
good
good.
news.
You're in your basement, so you
I
didn't
am.
come close to floating away either.
You're not podcasting from a boat.
No. I wish I could say the same for my other North Carolina neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of rain.
Or
And now
whether-
it's what, maybe circling back?
Is it? I don't know. Hope not.
Not as bad. I heard there was like some depressions or
Hmm.
something. Some of the after effects of the storm were reconfiguring and might not be as strong as the first storm, but might be coming back.
There are stretches of Interstate 40 that literally from the drone shots look like a river. Like you couldn't see asphalt at all. It was just like the banks of trees along the highway. And it was just like the banks of a shoreline. It was nuts. But we got off pretty light here in Raleigh. It ended up going around us instead of the original track, which was literally right straight through us. But it's sort of you don't want to celebrate too much when everyone else is having such a bad time with it. So we had my wife's sister's family here with us. They had 2 daughters and a dog and a cat, and they just left today. They were here for a week. They just got power back at their house yesterday,
Oh, well.
or last night. So there's still areas that in the more rural, kind of cut off shore areas of North Carolina, there's like bridges washed out and all the typical things you would think of, but a lot of places are inaccessible and stuff. And my brother-in-law who stayed here, he's a Methodist pastor, so his church that he runs in Beaufort, North Carolina, they're kind of converting it into kind of like a hub kind of thing, like distribution point kind of thing for materials and donations and getting people what they need and stuff. So that's kind of cool.
Nice.
It's neat to see the community band together.
Have you, Josh, what have you been up to?
getting ready to go to Maker Fair. So this week, we've been trying to hurry up and get project out. We just put out a video today. And I'm trying to make one for next week. This month has been so insane with like going to California and now going to New York. And there's something else, I think, at the end of the month. I don't remember. But yeah, we're getting ready to go to World Maker Fair tomorrow. So by the time you listen to this, it's Saturday. So we will be there at World Maker Fair. So that's what we're doing. What about you, Mark? You ground. Are you not going to Maker Fair?
No, I can't. I don't have I have no funds for that this year. Plus, we're doing a very late little birthday party for Thea on the weekend. I was trying to make it to that one. I wanted to go, but it didn't end up happening.
It's understandable.
And just been doing new job stuff and trying to get schedules back in order so I can kind of get back to some of my projects, which it's been very difficult to do, but getting there. Sean, you are
Sean's
muted.
microphone is muted.
That would help. Yeah, so I'm pretty much not doing that much new. Things just, you work, teaching. The only difference is last week is I finally got a hold of a 3D printer for my classroom, which
Saw that.
is, yeah, it's nice, but it's awkward, mainly because it belongs to the school, so I don't get to really mess with it at home. But I've been trying to print at least one thing every day, and you can see a lot of this on my Instagram. I'm trying to show like every day what I'm printing, and trying to learn and kind of get my feet wet in kind of 3D printing, because I have a lot of things I want to do, both personally and for the school. So I'll probably be picking your brains for a couple different things. And already, I kind of learned already that I don't care for MakerBot. Just because it's the 3D printer that I have. I think it was already used once by somebody else, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with the printer itself. But my school district, for whatever reason, and they do this all the time, they bought a huge lot of all of these printers. They probably bought between 60 and 100 MakerBots at probably $2,200 each. And we always have people making these purchases that don't know what they're doing. I know why they do it this way, because of the appearance, probably the illusion of support. But we have these gathering dust in almost every elementary school because nobody knows how to use them. And then I'm, through printing, I'm seeing some issues with the prints, issues with, from what I've seen, you could only use their filament. I mean, you could use other filament, but you have to, the cartridge that it goes on,
Yeah.
is only for the MakerBot. So you would have to unwind other filament and then wind it on a MakerBot cartridge to get around it.
You can't put a spool on a spool holder?
I don't know yet. I'm just going to look in. I was just looking at that today. I'm going to look into a hack or something. I think that I might be able to, but I don't know yet.
I always thought that was the worst. Just the biggest D thing to do was, well, you can only use what we
I didn't know
want
they
to
do that.
use. No.
Is it the
Well-
replicator?
I have the Replicator Plus. I think it's an older machine right now. It's nice only because it's easy to use, and especially working in an education environment, students can hop on and print something really quickly. But there's another teacher on campus that has all of the Monoprice Maker Selects, and he's running those great with students too. So we're going to try to get funding to buy more of those, because well, he has them up and running and working, but some version of the Prusa or the Prusa clone is what we're looking into, because for the price of one MakerBot, we could have bought 5 or 6 of the others.
Yeah. We're making a bits video on buying your first 3D printer.
How convenient. Okay,
So-
cool.
Yeah, so I've been researching all these things, like if I was going to talk to someone that had no idea but the ambition.
Yeah.
And Since we were at Matter Hackers, I got to ask that question kind of point blank to a lot of people out there. To Dave, like the co-owner, their marketing people, like their sales staff, like, because it's like which is your best printer that you sell, and to say something is best is really like you'd be speaking out of turn to half of the community by saying something is better than the other. So it's like, okay, well, what criteria do you give somebody? So I tried to come up with those, like, is price, is it like build volume, ease of use, you know, those kind of things. And so I was like, if I were to give advice to somebody on buying their first printer, these are things you should look at and weigh them accordingly, and then make an educated decision. So, I mean, the monoprice stuff, like I have experience with the monoprice mini, which has a really cheap price point, but with that cheap price point, you're going to be putting in a lot more personal work and effort. And so it's a trade-off between, if you buy a more expensive machine, how much you are going to have to do either in like maintenance or upkeep, or hacks or like add-ons and stuff. And
yeah, I mean, one of the differences with that is that the other teacher has been training the students how to do all that and how to take care of it. That's part of the lesson that he's doing in his class for it, as opposed to in my class, I'm not going to be taking time to really teach them that. It's mainly, you know what, you find a file, or I'm going to show you how to model something, and then here's how you go about printing it, and that's it. Because I don't actually have time to do all the troubleshooting stuff with them. So two different environments, but yeah, you're right in the assessment of, you know, the questions you have to ask before you decide on what 3D printer.
yeah, because I get questions probably 2 a day in the contact email that I like to make stuff by, like, what's the best printer under $300?
That's the most common question.
It is.
In every single 3D printing group ever created.
Yeah, there are not a lot of offerings at that price point, and you get what you pay for, hands down. Once you start getting out of the, like, probably baseline at like $600-ish is where you should start thinking about getting a 3D printer. And so you're like, where can I get one for half of that? Like, well, if you were going to go buy a car and baseline $20,000 for a car, you're like, but I want one for 10. It's like, well, that's really what you're asking. You're not going to get air conditioning. You're not going to get this. You're going to get a really older model that is going to have a lot of work and is going to be in the shop a lot, like my car. So it's people, I think, are approaching that idea with like an incorrect mindset.
I would like to know which printer is the easiest to maintain, I guess, and to calibrate. You know, what behaves the best. Because everything else is really a personal preference. You know, volume size, that's what are you going to print? Detail size, you know, resin versus FDM. You know, what are your intentions? Are you making Dungeons and Dragons board pieces, or are you making cosplay models? You know, the scale is very important in what you're doing. Dual colors. Are you a good painter, or do you suck at it? Can you afford the mosaic, which I really want? Can you know, how good are you at sanding? You know, there's a lot of that stuff comes down to the individual, but I think the universal thing would be, how easy is it to maintain? That would be my first question to ask across every printer. You know, do I have to spend 4 hours trying to adjust the print bed, or is this something that will do it on its own, or is it 3 screws that I can just dink, 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 okay, now it's good?
You know, on a side note, as a complete 3D printing newbie, it is really kind of interesting seeing how long it takes anything to print.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, I've been watching videos and reading what everybody's put out for years, but doing it on your own is probably like the best teacher, and it's fun, but man, it's time consuming. You know, watching any of Daryl's stuff from the Broken Nerd, you know, the amount of work that takes to get that quality.
100% infill. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that Centurion's helmet he's been making for me that I talked about on here,
Yeah.
Mhm.
it has taken a while because printing a full-size helmet takes forever. And the last one he showed me had a layer shift at like almost the top and ruined the
Oh.
whole thing. So a layer shift is just like on the CNC or just like any other automated where it either bumps or something happens where it skips and it doesn't continue in the exact same place. It thinks it is, but it's shifted over a little bit. So it's like if someone took the top of your head, sliced it off, and then just did like a really hack job of trying to glue it back on the top of your head. So that whole thing in the 50-something hours that it was taking to print that helmet plus supports is all a waste now. 2 spools of filament.
Not that that couldn't have been patched realistically.
I think he stopped it.
Sanding and Bondo could fix most anything.
But Sean, I think it's people have the expectation of like becoming a chef, and then it's like, yes, you're going to become a chef, but you're only allowed to cook in a crock pot. And they don't tell you that until you get all of your chef tools, and then it just plopped it super big. Like, there you go. You're ready. In 5 hours, you might be able to have a thing to play with.
And that relates to a problem with a couple of things that I'm teaching now that I'll hold for our pending show about education, because yeah, that's going to get bundled with that.
Well, if you print things just for like wow effect, you can print things in vase mode, or like it was like contour print, I think Kira calls it, where it just does like a single continuous outer layer, where it's just one whole piece, and that usually prints faster if you need to kind of show something off.
Yeah, this is like in what's called draft mode, which is why it's kind of all. In MakerBot software, they call it like draft mode. It prints really fast, and it's really kind of messy. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, it's sloppier. Yeah.
It's sloppier, and I think this filament isn't really that great because I think I see some delamination, but yeah, I just wanted it to get done in roughly an hour. That's all. So how about you, Mark? What have you been up to this week? Did you already talk about work or?
Yeah, no, it's just been work, and I gotta get a model done for a friend of mine that I had to put on hold since starting work, but I've been drooling over stuff. Going back to the days when I could work on things. I really want to get my 3D scanning table remade, but I don't have money for plywood right now, so I think I gotta get creative with bits and pieces of my garage.
All right, so you guys ready to tackle the topic that was suggested to us? All right, so Donovan from the Beardless Man YouTube channel had a great recommendation for a topic. He asked, he's asking, how do you decide to do projects that are hard and stretch you, and when do you just decide to do projects that are easy and safe?
That are hard and what to us?
Like a stretch of your talents.
Oh.
Yeah, hard and stretch you. Stretch your abilities, I would assume. Although in some cases, it's probably stretching pocketbooks too.
It depends on
Truth.
It depends on what my mood is. If I'm calm, then yeah, I'll try and push myself, because then I can, and it's also time. But yeah, it's time and money. Really, if I have all the time in the world to try and figure something out, then cool. But money, I have found, always plays a vital role, because if I screw anything up, I can't replace it.
For me, I think it depends on how badly I want that end thing, whatever it is that I'm making. However it is, how badly I want it. I don't know how much the challenge comes into it. I've kind of gone head first into some things that I probably shouldn't have, but a lot of my things have been kind of small scale, so I don't know if the stakes have ever been really that high for anything that I've made. So I don't know too much on that one. Wes, you've done some pretty challenging things.
Yeah, most of my projects, at least initially, I tried to do at least one thing I've never done before, just as an excuse to learn that thing. And for the majority of my projects, that's actually worked out all right. But some of the things, wait, let's see, it worked out all right. But then I got complacent with some stuff I thought I was comfortable with, and that's when things went wrong. So I think there's more of a risk in my own experience of things that I felt the most comfortable with that ends up backfiring sometimes. Like in the instance of the thwomp that I made. I was like, oh, I know how to do make a mold for something. I'm like, doing the stuff, and oh no, there's a leak, and it just like all kind of compounded. And I was trying to use a new material, new rubber type material instead of silicone, and that just made everything worse. And it was a perfect storm of cascading failures. Not to mention how many Raspberry Pis I shorted out along the way because I didn't know what I was doing. So it's a little bit of mixture, I guess, in that one. But I don't know. It's a hard thing to choose if you have the resources to put towards something that could potentially fail, like you say, like monetarily. It's hard to predict sometimes. Like one time I bought a big vat of smooth-on silicone rubber for a project, and I get all the way to the point where I needed to use it, and I go to pour it. I got it from Amazon. I go to pour it, and like the part A is too thick, and it wouldn't pour together or mix or anything like that. So I don't know how long it had been sitting on the shelf before they sold it to me. But then it was basically like $50 wasted right there, and that set me back on that project. I still haven't gone back to it.
You couldn't return that to Amazon?
It was like a third-party seller, something like, and I ended up waiting like outside the return period, like because I didn't know, I was in a rush to use it, right? It wasn't that I waited a year, but it was like just outside that period of time where the person's like, "Oh, sorry, you waited too long." I'm like, which kind of stinks. Which made it even worse because. Like I haven't really used a lot of smooth-on products, and that was the biggest amount of money I spent on a smooth-on product was that kit, and it didn't work. And I kicked myself in that I didn't go back to the more reliable stuff that I used in the past, just because they charge a little more for shipping. They're not available on Amazon Prime. Called a Brick in the Yard casting supply. They're out of Texas, I think. That's what I used for my Mario Kart stuff, for the head, the resin, the silicone, the leftover silicone that I ended up using to help me. I ended up bailing myself out on that Thwomp project. It came from leftover silicone that had been sitting in the cabinet for like 2 years, and it was still completely fine. So, I don't know, 2-year-old silicone works fine versus smooth-on that was brand new, never opened. It didn't work, so sort of.
Yeah, we had the same problem with the batch of epoxy that we recently got. It was a 2-part mixture, and the one part came out like all super crystallized, and it messed up the whole project. And it was $100 just wasted.
Yep.
And there's not really anybody you can blame. I mean, the thing was sealed, I guess. But yeah, it sucks. Excuse me. I think for me is if I don't have like a clear path on how to move forward from beginning to end, like I'm really apprehensive. So I 3D model a lot of stuff so I can try to figure out all of those issues. Like the built-ins that we just finished. Actually, they're not even finished yet. They don't have doors. Like I never built cabinets. I've never done casework. So I was like, I can go buy cabinets and put them in there. And then saw cabinets are expensive. I'm like, well, I'll just measure my current cabinets. So I had to model them, and I had to stick them together, and I would constantly like run into these little roadblocks. And so I would fix them digitally until I had the whole thing in Fusion 360 like completely done. I'm like, okay, I now know how all these pieces need to go. I have my order of operations set. Like, I'm a little intimidated just because I have never done it, but I've done like a digital dry run, so this should just work out. And for the most part, it did. Now I have to do doors. Like, I've never made cabinet doors before, So I had to do the exact same thing. I'm like, I'm gonna make some rails and some stiles, and I'm gonna fit them together and probably carve in a nice little geometric thing, kind of like we did for the closet doors at Bob's. But again, it's something I haven't done, and I don't have like in my head in a snap like oh yeah, just go bang 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 bang, and it'll be done. And those are things I can like attack quickly and easily. And the small stuff I'll get distracted with while I'm procrastinating on the big stuff. Like I remember I had to make another table. I made a bunch of tabletops. So I made another tabletop after the one worked. I was like, oh, I just didn't feel like doing it. And so I rearranged and cleaned my entire shop. And made things way more efficient and easy to do. And Tiff came out. She was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm nipping at low-hanging fruit.
To your confidence back up.
Yeah, I'm intimidated or deterred from doing the big thing. So I'm just like flash in the pan getting rid of the small stuff that I've been putting off just because of the quantity of small stuff. But yeah, big things where it's a fog or there's no absolute clear path from beginning to end, I'm apprehensive about. And that's where I think doing things digitally really helps. Just because you can fail and you can screw up and you can go back and do it right. And there's no material bought and there's no, cuts that I need to uncut. I can just extrude it out a little bit more.
Damn it, sorry. That's why I like doing it digital, because it completely eliminates the saying that you can't add more material.
Yeah. Yes, I can.
Watch this.
Well, it's like that Matter Hackers build that we did with the Perfection game. Like, that whole thing went together really easily because I had modeled that entire thing. I had figured it all out. I had broken it apart. I had combined things in the simplest, most easy way. I made a cut list in the easiest way. So all those questions and all the guesswork was taken out. Except for the mechanical pieces. And that was the downfall. That was the one thing that I just couldn't work through beforehand. That we just had to assume was going to work. And it didn't. And so if there really is like a big, like right now, I've got a hole in my wall between my dining room and my kitchen because Tiff wanted the wall gone, so she just started smashing it with the hammer that I gave her. I'm like, just go, because if there's a giant hole in the wall, that'll be motivation for us to actually expand that opening. But I've never done that before, so I modeled the entire thing. And I'm like, I'm making assumptions. I'm like, here's the door frame. On the other side of this door frame, there's door casing. And behind that door casing, there's probably some jack studs, and then a header, and then every 16 inches off of that, there's probably another stud that has, a foot, and it has a top cap. So I digitally modeled that entire process, and then while I was sitting there, I'm like, let's just get rid of the kitchen wall, and then boom, I uncheck a component, and the kitchen wall's gone. I'm like, let's get rid of the dining room wall, and I uncheck it, and then boom, it's gone. And so now that we smash a hole in the wall, I have to verify that my model is correct. And if it is, then great. And if it's not, then I have to I gotta stop and I gotta rethink everything I know and then take those little itty bitty incremental thoughts in my head to build up to my next step. And so it's where reality and the digital pre-planned world come together. Like, I hope it's going to work out. And if it doesn't, it's going to sit there half finished until I get the gumption to see it through to the end and actually start.
So related to Donovan's original question, what do you think is the hardest project that you've done? What is the hardest thing you think you've worked on?
Say the RV.
My house, yeah, my house.
I'm not sure. I was looking through my backlog of projects. Although this is just like the videos. Um, I don't know. I Each one kind of presents its own kind of challenge.
I mean, there's definitely more projects that you have to like come up with creative solutions to problems. But I think as like sheer like mass and scope, I think those may be two different categories.
Hmm.
Because one is just like a lot of work, and the
Yeah.
other is you flexing like your creativity to figure it out.
I wasn't trying to, at least initially, talk about the amount of work, but more like difficulty level. Like it was just difficult to complete or figure out, whether it was creatively or something more physical. Not in terms of like lifting, but I don't know. You guys could kind of fill in the blanks.
I had a project. Shoot, it's probably been 10 years now. I don't even know. At our previous house, when I first got my Honda Element, I wanted to install a car PC, and that wasn't a real popular thing to have at the time. And a lot of cars didn't have the capabilities that I was looking to put in there. And I'm not a car guy, like at all, but I was a PC guy. So I figured I would use that kind of knowledge and like leverage myself into working on my car. Granted, it wasn't that complicated, really, as far as like, it's basically replacing the radio. I was trying to use a factory amp that was already in the Element. I had to run a wire from the battery terminal through the bulkhead, and all that sort of stuff, and have it, then after I kind of figure out the car parts the best of my ability, then I was like, oh, here's a little PC. So it's like compartmentalized this little project inside of a bigger thing I didn't really understand. It was kind of weird that I was able to kind of work in that weird scale. But I ended up getting it working. I didn't get all the kinks worked out of it, because that's where my knowledge of the car stuff kind of fell by the wayside. Like I had some weird humming issues that I think it was some sort of grounding issue with the PC versus the audio equipment. Maybe they didn't have the same ground. I'm not really sure. It caused like this hum. You could hear the engine sometimes, like when you're first initially start the car, you would hear like feedback through the speakers of the engine, and like if you rev the engine, you'd hear this like tone rev up and down. I'm sure it's a very simple fix. Some of you guys might even know what it is off the top of your head, but I try to look it up. I didn't know the right terms to look it up. I didn't have any resources, but eventually I got it working well enough where I had it for like 10 years. I had a touchscreen in there. I had a GPS module. There were upgrades that I didn't actually end up putting all in there. Like you could interface it with the OBD2 port of the car to read like computer sensor data. You could hook up webcams and backup cameras to it. You could had a 40 gig hard drive on it. I could load MP3s and have like a whole touchscreen interface thing. Before that was even that popular, I don't even think you could even get that in the factory even at the time. Like the Ford Sync wasn't a thing, and all the Bluetooth wasn't really that popular at the time. I don't think you could even do that at the time I did this. So for a while, I had like the cutting edge of car interestingness, and then it sort of stagnated while the rest of the world caught up and sort of surpassed it. And like a lot of the functionality that it had, like this little ITX form factor motherboard and like 2 gig of memory and all these pieces of hardware that had to cram into the glove box to make it do all the things it needed to do. Now I can just replace all that with a tablet, which I did until I left that said tablet in the airplane on the way to Maker Faire this year.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like watching Avengers or something, and then here comes the stewardess. Oh, it's a drink. Oh, I put the tablet, and it went into the seat back pocket. And it slipped right down. I didn't even think about it. and I didn't realize it till I got home after that trip, and it was on uh, Alaska Airlines or whatever. I did like the lost item thing and checked the Android, dashboard or whatever. You can see if the device is turned on from a different location. I set it to wipe itself if it detected it was on. All the things you're supposed to do. It never showed up. I don't know. So now I've got to get another one. But luckily that was a cheap one. But and eventually I'm still going to need to tackle that car part of it, even to go from the tablet to finish part, because there's still like some audio issues I'd like to suss out. But I don't know. That's sometimes you need to be able to tag team another person, or tag another person in if you need help, if you know the right person, I guess, too. So as long as you have the resources to have your back, it makes some projects less daunting. It's not just yourself in a vacuum.
But I think that's a really good point about knowing the scope of your project and knowing your own limitations.
Mm-hmm.
And where, I think, what is your goal? Like, is it to have a fun thing? Is it to expand your skills or learn a new skill? Because then you don't want to outsource that, because then you miss out on that opportunity. But usually it takes a lot longer, and that's where you're going to mess stuff up. And it's a little more expensive when it's a learning tool.
Yeah,
than it is just to have like a final product.
It was a little unnerving to cut into my glove box. I mean, I knew I could go to a junkyard and get a replacement, like the inside part of the glove box. It's not too. I looked it up before I did it, and I knew I would have the car probably till either it didn't work anymore or I wrecked it. So I sort of bought into the idea that this is my car. I can, as long as I don't permanently damage something that I have no capability of fixing financially or skill set wise, then I'm all right. But it also helped demystify a lot of the car too for me. Same thing when we owned our first house. Like, here are these walls that, as long as I've been raised, don't put holes in the walls. Like in the military barracks, like, you're not going to mess with this. You're just another person in the barracks. Don't mess with the walls. Don't do anything. Blah blah. So like when I get to our house, it's almost like the sacred force field of don't mess with me. Like if I mess with it, someone's going to yell at me. And I'm like, oh wait, no one's going to yell at me. I can do whatever the hell I want. And it was like a freeing thing to be able to like rip siding off and like, oh, there's just plywood behind this. You rip the plywood off. Oh, there's just, insulation. That's all it is. Oh, well, okay, it's sort of demystifying. That helps a lot too. Sometimes just jumping in when you have no other choice. And it's cheaper to do it yourself than hire like a handyman. Or a lot of times when we have stuff around the house, if I don't know how to do it, if I can maybe get a tool out of that project, and still have it cost less than if we got a person to do it. Granted, if the project actually works, then I come out ahead. But it's hard to figure out.
I think one of the hardest projects I did was kind of before I really got into the DIY side of things, of really, watching YouTube videos and trying to actually learn. And assuming that I knew more than what I did. In our master bedroom, we have a really big master closet. It's not really a walk-in, but it's really long. And all I had was the big, thick dowels across for hanging stuff. And there's a single one there. There wasn't anything else in there. And it seemed like a lot of wasted space. And I know you could buy like things to go in there to serve different functions, but somehow I got the idea that I could probably build this out into a proper closet. No, I couldn't. And I thought I was doing my due diligence. I went on some site that lets you design your own closet. I set it all up, had all the dimensions right. I got my cut list. I was really meticulous, but I didn't think about how I was going to attach it to anything in the closet and how I was going to attach it to the wall. So I kind of jerry-rigged some things together. It's a Frankenstein of a job. I needs to all be pulled out and redone. Because at one point, I had this huge box that I built in there with different sections for T-shirts and everything else, and I was using 3/4 inch particle board. Same stuff like the melamine's made out of, but coated with like the stuff that looks like the wood texture. And one day I hear from downstairs, thump. The thing broke off the wall and just hit the floor. and yeah, it's been there for like 7 years now. I haven't moved it or changed it. Someday I'll pull that out and do it properly, since I have a better idea of how to properly attach things and probably not use material that is heavier than it needs to be. But that's probably one of the hardest projects I did, because it was just me. I was working alone. I didn't even have a table saw yet. In fact, thinking back, I don't even know how I cut the stuff. I think I cut it on my sliding miter saw, which might have just barely cut. I imagine, 'cause I don't even remember how I did it. Yeah.
Well, getting this house now, there's a lot of things that we want to upgrade. And it all kind of comes back to, like, I've never done that. But theoretically, it shouldn't be that difficult. Or, like, we were talking about the bathroom and how my wife has these awesome ideas for our master bathrooms. It's probably the most regular vanilla room in the house, but it's just awkwardly laid out. But I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. Like, I don't know when we'll be able to afford all those things, or at what point I will be confident enough to go, yeah, I can totally do that. So now I'm like, like there's a pipe, and
bathrooms are definitely scarier than they actually are.
Yeah, and Wes, you made the point about like your car, and I've never been. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. I can tear apart a helicopter, but I can't fix my own car.
Yeah.
And so there was a certain part in my life that I'm like, you are smart. You should be able to do this. Like, you shouldn't have to pay someone else to change your oil in your car. This is dumb. And then from that point on, I learned how to fix things that were broken. And I would be like very delicate and very sensitive when I'm trying to take off a bolt or whatever, because I mean, in the helicopter, things are machined and things are aircraft aluminum, and you know, if you over torque, it can damage. And I remember my neighbor was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I can't get this freaking thing off." And he's like, "Oh, you just gotta smash it with this sledgehammer." I'm like, "Oh God!" And like it finally worked. And he's like, "You can be super rugged to this thing. Like it's meant to go like 100 miles an hour." And the moment that I realized that, it's like I don't have to, like you talk about with the walls.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't have to be so delicate with things, you know, or they're not as kind of hands off as I thought they were.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what Tiff thought about that wall. And she was like, "This wall irritates me so bad." I'm like, "Well, then just smash it with a hammer." She's like, "I can't. No, I'm not going to smash it with the hammer." I'm like, "Just smash it with the hammer. It's going to feel really good. You'll feel accomplished, and then you can see if it's really what you want. And if it's not, then I'll just cut it, and I'll just put another piece of drywall over it. It's not a big deal." And she could not comprehend that it was not that big a deal until I just went out to the garage and got a hammer. I'm like, "Either you're going to hit it or I'm going to hit it." And then she just like whacked a hole in it. I'm like, "There you go." And then I came back in 20 minutes later, and like 4 feet of both walls were gone. Good God. Like, you kind of got on a roll with that. I'm like, now you understand how not a big deal it is just to tear out drywall. You can put it right back. And I think my first big project like that, I think now you're talking about with difficulty, was when we were in Belgium. We went to this little church that was in an old like milk barn, and the nursery was just kind of gross. And we were putting our kids, like all of us were putting our kids in there. And I was like, you know, I'm going to fix this because I'm tired of whining about it. I don't want to give money to a church that's not going to do anything with it. I was like, so I'll just pay to have this thing fixed, and I'll do it myself. And like we ripped out drywall, I smashed out a closet that didn't need to be there. Like we reinforced the insulation, added new shingles to the outside because it was like dripping water, put down carpet, and like redid this entire room. It was crazy. And I learned a lot because like I put the drywall in wrong. I put it in standing up instead of it laid on its side, and like stupid little stuff that it worked. It was like, but that's not how you do it. And it was really daunting until you made that first step. I was like, wow, that was not as hard as I thought it was going to be. It's like, if you screw it up, you can just cover it up and put some spackle on it and sand it, paint over it, and no one would ever know. It's like, that's surprisingly neat. It's not the sacred wall that you can't touch.
Yeah, once you realize you have the skill to fix a problem that might come up, then tackling the original issue that might not even lead to a problem isn't so bad, you know? Like, in my experience of the woodworking, which is very limited, like with the Mario cabinet thing, the bookshelf, I realized that I got to the point where I could fix most problems that I would encounter. So it took that fear of, oh no, what if I break it? What's going to happen? Like, oh, I know kind of what's involved in fixing it. And so it takes that edge off, I guess.
Have you guys ever reached a point where you couldn't fix it, you just had to scrap it and start over?
Sort of. When I was fixing my washing machine the first time I took it apart, it turned into one of those, okay, I can't do this right now. Uh-oh. And then I ended up ordering the parts and the tool, and I was like, oh, I hope this works.
I think the answer is yes, but I can't remember what it was. I know I tried fixing a shop vac one time, and I must have misplaced a part or forgot to put something else on. But I turned it on, and something happened, and it turned into like a really high-pitched scream from the motor, and some smoke started coming out. And yeah, so that kind of went in the trash.
Nice.
Just give it a second, honey. It'll be alright. Does that sometimes.
This happened to me with cooking a lot. Not often, but like as I was learning how to cook different dishes that were more involved, or I would have to either suck it up and eat it, or just like be like, all right, it's a pizza night, and just toss it in the garbage. It wasn't so often I would burn something. It was just either I forgot an ingredient or it mixed things in a improper order, so it didn't come out right, or I just forgot one crucial ingredient that was like the linchpin that held everything together. But luckily I've gotten that down to where I know the things that I'm best at cooking, and I still try to do new recipes and stuff, but kind of know what my range is. Any Oriental, Asian type of dish, it doesn't turn out right for me. I've tried all kinds of stuff. It never tastes the same. To the point where I'm like, oh, I'm not going to visit that genre again for a while.
Some Blue Apron meals, man.
Yeah, we did that for a while.
Like, a lot of their stuff is Asian. It was pretty yummy. Oh, but I asked that because I made one of the countertops for the built-ins. I tried to make it in haste, and it came back and bit me that the whole tabletop was warped, like really bad. And I was like, well, I can't really fix this because it was all planed down to 3/4 of an inch, and then the stuff that goes on top of it was also supposed to be 3/4 of an inch kind of off, so it was supposed to fit inside that gap. And I think I ended up taking it back and just cutting all the boards at their glue lines and trying it again. I don't remember what I did, but I went back and just cut the whole thing up. So I was like, there's no amount of like planing or sanding or anything else that I can do to make it work. So I was like, this thing is pretty much crap. And so I had to go and just start all over. Now I think I split them at their glue lines, and I chopped them up, and I turned it into a big butcher block, like a chunk of butcher block. So I have like a 28-inch, I think, square, like 1.5 inch thick piece of walnut butcher block. That's just because that tabletop was screwed up, and I didn't want to completely throw it in the trash. So I just kind of scrapped it together, but I had to start all over, and it was so frustrating. So I don't know if there was an example of you guys just kind of like having to call a spade and go like, I can be an awesome maker and I can be MacGyver, but this turd is not going to.
I'm not a dentist, that's for sure. Yeah, there were a couple instances thinking about having to scrap a project or start all over. when I was doing a lot of 3D modeling, sometimes there are decisions that you would make at the beginning that have a huge impact down the line. Like if you make a wrong decision of where to subdivide a certain area of a model or whatever, and by the time you get all the way to the end, or to a certain point, you look back and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, and there's like not really any easy way to reverse what you did or undo. It just depends on the package. But in Maya, for instance, like if I'm trying to 3D model someone's face, you have to have like the edge loops a certain way and have everything just right. And then you're like, oh, I should have subdivided it this other way. Or you delete the history of the model so you can't go back and re-edit a certain point. And it's just easier just to wipe it and just, or create another object on top of it and like use that as a reference to model to get to the visual same point. But like structurally, topology-wise, it's a lot better. And then it's sort of a pain to like swallow, kind of swallow that pill of, oh, I have to start over, but then you realize that it doesn't take it quite as long to get to that same point because you've kind of redone it. It's not as visually stimulating or mentally stimulating in that you're not problem solving to the point where you were. Like that's the fun part, is like trying to think about how everything comes together, and it's interesting. Then you have to kind of redo stuff to get to that point again. It's sort of mind numbing. So you have to put on some music and just suck it up, buttercup, But I've had to do that a lot.
That's usually when I'll put it down, go to bed, and hit it the next day.
Yep.
We're about an hour in. Anything else on difficult projects? How we decide?
Don't be afraid of trying difficult projects. I mean, if you have, in my opinion, if you try 10 times, do 10 easy projects or one badass project, the reward of the badass one will outshine the reward of 10 average ones.
And don't be afraid to put it down and walk away and hit it another day.
And it's just drywall.
Drywall's the devil. No, spackle's the devil, sorry.
Like, go ahead and smash it. If it's
That
something that you can't do, you just, now you need to learn to drywall really quick, and it's not that bad.
That is one of the most therapeutic things I've ever done with my house, though. Demo is the best. Drywall's a pain. Spackle's the devil.
So what are you guys geeking out about?
Captain Marvel trailer. It was pretty cool.
That was going to be mine.
Yeah.
It didn't say a lot.
It
But it was
didn't.
pretty good.
Cool visuals.
I like the tone.
Yeah.
The younger versions of Samuel Jackson and Phil Coulson, like they didn't look as bad as some other attempts at doing that. So hopefully they can pull it off for the entire movie. I don't know.
I've been pretty impressed overall with the process. I thought Kurt Russell's is pretty good. Michael Douglas's was pretty good.
Yeah. Downey Jr.
Yeah.
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 Downey Jr. in Civil War?
Iron Man.
Yeah, it was Civil War.
Yeah.
War.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That was
Yeah.
I was really like dumbfounded at that point. I was like, wait, did they film that? Holy crap. That one was really good.
And
It
later,
looked like Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
from Weird Science.
Yeah.
it's better than they did for Tron, the Legacy, or the latest Tron one.
I mean,
Well, that was a long time ago at this
Yeah, that was
point.
a
It was,
ago,
but
we-
it was
we had
ambitious at the time.
Yeah, we had this conversation. Like that was a leap ahead of what has been done before, and now
Yeah.
we're so much farther past it. And the explanation still tracks that we're getting to the point where we might not need actors. We'll still need the voice act. Well, no, we might not need.
Andy Serkis will hopefully win an Academy Award at some point for what he does.
Yeah, that's true.
Then I'll be happy.
Did you guys see that she was wearing a shield hat?
Yes.
And did it make you wonder where Shield got that hat made and if they have like a gift store? I got on a stupid mental tangent that I realized that I'm missing most of the trailer getting hung up on dumb things like this. Like, I wonder if they have golf bags. Yeah. Do they have hand towels? Like, what else they have? I bet they got polo shirts. They have to have polo shirts. But why is it saying
it's like any other company?
polo shirts? That's for recreational use only. I'm like, man, watch the trailer.
Wonder if they're made of like a nice poly cotton blend, or do they shrink, or is it run a little small?
Are the polos sweat wicking?
They have not updated their logo in at least 10 years.
That it done on Fiverr.
I wonder if Nick Fury lost his eye over something stupid. Like he was trying to get a drink of a milkshake and somebody like hit a bump while they were driving.
Sponsored by Sonic, right?
Yeah, you just assume it was something really heroic and valorous, but maybe it's just something dumb. Like he turned really fast while he was trying to put on a pair of sunglasses.
He poked himself in the eye. Trying to...
That's half the movie, him just going, oh, you guys.
Mother.
What?
What the hell was that?
Peter Griffin?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh.
He hits his shin.
He just gets pink eye really, really bad.
I was thinking that too. Yeah. What if at some point in the movie he just starts like itching his eye, and then you're like, oh, there you go. I think I got something in my eye.
So do you think that this movie will set up Secret Invasion in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? And people we know and love will not be the people we've known and loved.
In a small way, it almost seemed like Secret Invasion would have been something that already happened, but in the past.
Which that would work.
Because then they don't have to worry about it fitting into what happens after Avengers 4. I don't know.
Which is supposed to come out when?
May, April. April.
Because this
I
is
think it
supposed to
got
come out
moved
in March.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Back to back.
They're not letting it breathe long enough. They should have moved.
It's gonna be like a
Captain
double
Marvel
feature?
up.
It's gonna feel like it.
Well, what's
should've-
supposed to come out? Don't they have one that comes out in the winter?
After that?
No, like haven't they done that in the past? Like
Yeah.
beginning of the year, something in like early winter, and then
No, not this year.
fall, and then
Captain Marvel should have been a Captain Marvel should have been a Thanksgiving movie,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
Avengers 4 should have been spring.
Because there's no Star Wars movie this winter.
No, not
No
until
Marvel movie
December
this
2019.
Aquaman
DC's
for DC.
gonna put out some big
Aquaman.
turd that probably nobody wants to watch.
Have you seen the early pics of Joaquin Phoenix as a Joker?
I'm cautiously optimistic about
I
that.
don't care.
Don't care at all. There is
I
one
don't
Joker.
care either.
They retired the Joker's jersey after Heath Ledger. Like, stop trying.
Yeah.
See, if anyone could do it as well as Heath
Give me some new
Ledger, I
characters.
think Joaquin could.
I don't know.
For as many villains as Batman has, he has like one of the largest libraries of villains ever. Why are you gonna keep doing the same characters like 4 or 5 times?
Yeah, give the Condiment King a chance.
Right, Calendar Man.
They could
Years ago,
easily redo Mr. Freeze with literally anybody
Yeah.
and be a win.
years
I
ago,
actually I wouldn't mind seeing Man Bat on screen.
years ago there was a rumor that Philip Seymour Hoffman was going to play the Penguin, and I thought that would have been really interesting.
I could have seen that really easily.
But unfortunately, we won't see that now. Oh well.
I'm actually more excited. I don't know if there's any more news on it, but I keep hearing things in the wind about Sherlock 3.
Oh, that's already being filmed.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's already.
and I'm wondering if my theory is correct. Because I don't think he killed was it Rose McAdams? Was that who?
Rose McGowan.
McGowan, yeah. I don't know. The
Love interest, yeah.
what's her name? Yeah, the love interest.
It's not.
I don't
Yeah.
think he killed her. I think he's got her hidden away somewhere. I'm hoping anyway, because that seemed like a waste.
Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams,
Rachel
yeah.
I didn't have to look that up. I just thought of it.
All right. Well, are we done? Or okay. All right. Well, we'd love to hear from all of you. Go ahead and visit our website, makinggeeks.com. Check out the contact page. If you have any suggestions for the show or questions, go ahead and leave them there. And on the homepage of the site, you can listen to all of our past episodes. And be sure to take a chance to take a look at all of our past guests as well, right there on makinggeeks.com.
And you can find us across all the social medias on Twitter and Facebook at Making Geeks, and on Instagram at Making Geeks Podcast.
I'd like to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/makinggeeks. They put their money where our mouths are and help us keep going. They provide resources and financial contributions to help pay for maker fairs and trips and stickers and all that sort of stuff that we love to have the ability to do. Hopefully we can work towards that at the next maker fair, all come together again. That could be a good goal we could work towards. But I'd like to thank our top patron, Mr. Seth Williams, and all of our patrons for supporting us. If you'd like to join the elite squad of supporters, head over to patreon.com/makinggeeks.
If you want to contact any one of us individually, you can find Sean at geekbuilders.net, find Mark at asylum-3d.com, find Wes at geeksmithing.com, and you can find me at thepiworkshop.com. And you can find all of us on those same handles on all the social media outlets as well. Take a peek at what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. Drop us a line, comment about the show. If there's anything in particular that you want to let us know, or tell us that we did wrong, that's the best way to do it. Or you can hang out with us here in the live chat every Thursday around 9:30, whenever we get around to setting all this up and we can stop talking about Batman's penis and comic books and actually get ready to our proper topic during the pre-show. You come hang out with us there on our YouTube channel at Making Geeks Podcast. So we hope you enjoyed this maker-centric episode tonight. We'll see you all after Maker Fair, and we hope you have a fantastic week.
See you guys.
See ya.